हेलो मैम, म्यूट निकालिए तेजस्वी मैम, म्यूट
मैम
निकालिए।
सर निकाला, मैंने निकाला।
हाँ, अभी मैं करूँ लाइव?
हाँ सर कर दो।
ठीक है, मैं लाइव कर रहा हूँ आपको। You can start. Start, ma'am.
Good morning, one and all. I am super excited about today's event, and I know you all participants are also. So, without any further delay, let's begin. Advocacy is skill of persuading other people to agree with your point of view. If you want to be a great lawyer, you need to be an skilled advocate. Not only is advocacy important, but mooting is also an inseparable aspect of advocacy. Mooting is not same as public speaking or debating. It is not restricted only to oratory skills. It is a specialized application of art of persuasive advocacy. It has been a part of process of training lawyers for centuries and plays an important role in legal education. So, today's topic of webinar is Development of Mooting Skills, a necessary virtue for advocacy, organized by Sri Balaji Society's Balaji Law College, Pune, in association with Sri Shivaji Maratha Society's Law College, Pune. Friends, due to some technical difficulties, today our principal sir is not present in this webinar. So now I request our vice principal ma'am to please give formal welcome address. Ma'am, please address the gathering.
Honorable Dr. Colonel Balasubramaniam and all the dignitaries which are present over here. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you all for this first online webinar which Balaji Law College is going to conduct. We are also giving our appreciation to Sri Shivaji Maratha Society's Law College to extend their assistance and that they got ready to collaborate with us for this webinar. I would like to welcome first of all our respected Honorable Vice Chancellor Sri Balaji University, Pune, Dr. G.K. Shirode for having his valuable presence for this webinar. This webinar is, I believe, that very important for all the students, all the law students, because mooting is one of the important skill which everybody should imbibe in them. It's not only required to convince judges in the court of law, but then mooting skills help you to research relevant and a very live data which can be presented and which shows that how updated you are. So this necessary virtue has to be adopted by each and every law student. Understanding the importance of this particular subject, we have requested a very elegant personality, Dr. Advocate Sheetal Babar ma'am, to to come and to give her welcome address to her guest speech. And we are really thankful that in spite of in a busy schedule, she has given her time and she is ready to be with us in this particular webinar. Talking about Sri Balaji Society, I believe that there is no need to give any separate introduction for Sri Balaji Society, as we believe that all our students who are there in all the corners of the world, they are our brand ambassadors and 3Ds of a Balaji Society, that is discipline, dedication, and determination, are so rooted and imbibed in all the students, and they are showing it through their work. I am very proud to mention over here that in the year 2019, Sri Balaji Society has got the status of Sri Balaji University Pune, which is now a deemed university. Talking about Sri Balaji Law College, being one of the 6 sisterly institutions under Sri Balaji Society, we are aspiring to take the legacy of our society far ahead under, under the guidance of a beloved Bala sir. Balaji Law College is affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University, and we are recognized and approved by Government of Maharashtra and Bar Council of India. Balaji Law College believes in the combination of modern educational ambience as well as traditional Indian rigors of training. And with this combination, we believe that we are in the task to give a new breed of the lawyers, law graduates who are responsible and well equipped and who would be serving for not only for the legal fraternity but to the nation as well as to the humanity as a whole. So, with these words, I welcome all the dignitaries over here present, as well as all the people who have always backed us, always supported us to conquer new world. Thank you so much, Tejasvi ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your inspiring words. Indeed, Sri Balaji Society has set its unique example in the field of education. Now, our next dignitary of honor is the person who has motivated us all by being a living example of kindness and selfless service. With these words, I would like to call upon Honorable Shirude Sir, Vice Chancellor, Sri Balaji University, Pune, and Campus Director, Balaji Law College, to give presidential address. Sir, please do the honors.
Good morning, one and all. Good morning, everybody. At the outset, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
At the outset, let me appreciate the efforts taken by Sri Balaji Society's Balaji Law College and Sri Shivaji Maratha Society's Law College, Pune, for organizing this webinar on a very excellent topic, that is development of mooting skills, a necessary virtue for advocacy. I congratulate the team, particularly of BLC as well as the Law College of Sri Maratha Society, Shivaji Maratha Society. On behalf of the President of Sri Balaji Society and the Chancellor of Sri Balaji University, Pune, our beloved Professor Dr. Colonel A. Balasubramanian, Principal Director Professor Paramdhaman, Chairperson CDC Dr. Dimple, all the faculties, Vice Principal of both the colleges, Principal of both the colleges, the participants, practitioners, and attendees. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome each and everybody at this particular webinar, which has a very close as far as our profession is concerned, our occupation is concerned. Friends, COVID-19 has caused many changes and challenges everywhere in the globe, and India is not exception to that. Lockdown, particularly phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, has really opened up the eyes of everybody. That is, how human beings are valuable as far as taking care of everybody is concerned. And this lockdown indirectly is having the another side of the coin, and that is breakdown. Breakdown of the organizations, business, economy, various sectors, and therefore it has adversely affected on the income, employment, and output at a macro level. Couple of reflections are there, and even the judiciary is not exceptional to this. Challenges are always in the form of difficulties. Various barriers are there, various obstacles are there. Friends, this is the opportunity now. This is the time where we can convert the challenges into opportunity. Because Sri Balaji University, Sri Balaji Society always believes that difficulties are opportunities, problems are opportunities. And let us convert these particular problems into opportunities. For me, there are 5 different types of the opportunities which we have got as far as this particular work from home or the lockdown situation is concerned. Opportunity number 1, to utilize each and every resource optimally. And whenever I say that the resource, I mean the man-made resources and natural resources. And not only that, but particularly the resources used in each and every profession, including the legal aspects and the lawyers are concerned. My second point is accept the change and use it for the benefit of the society in general and specifically for the young Indians. My point number 3, to update our knowledge. Most important part as far as the education and the society is concerned is knowledge. Our thought process, our roadmap ahead. To understand changing trends, changing scenario, changing practices in socio-economic, socio-political, socio-cultural, and even socio-legal environment is concerned. These trends, this scenario, one has to observe it very carefully. And finally, it is the opportunity to the academicians, practitioners, consultants, and participants in respect of newness in acquisition of knowledge, application of knowledge, and assimilation of knowledge. Whenever I say that the acquisition of knowledge, I mean the knowledge along with the various types of the skills. And whenever I say that the knowledge, what it includes the legal aspects, particularly today's topic is concerned, case study, application of sections and subsections in the given situation and particularly a given category, up to date in respect of the things around the world, various provisions made, recent amendments in the various types of the sections, and therefore one has to refer the various judgments given by the Supreme Court as well as the High Court and the how these judgments are relevant as far as the moods are concerned. If I refer National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC at the central level, they have classified skills into 108. There are 108 different type of skills are there. And all these skills, they have classified into different categories as per the sectors are concerned. And therefore, knowledge along with skill plays a very crucial role. What type of these skills are there, particularly in mooting is concerned? See, communication plays a very crucial role. But whenever we are communicating, language, grammar plays a very crucial role. The way you are presenting yourself, along with communication, convincing skills, how you are going to convince, how you are going to refer the different type of the references related with the particular problem or the particular issue which is given. Then the way you are expressing yourself, how much you are confident and what is the level of your confidence. So on one hand, confidence is required, but at the another hand, confident to be in respect of the various issues which are going to be discussed in the moot. So here alertness is also required. Whenever you are arguing as the advocate, as a young budding advocate, then your alertness, quickness, smartness, and the strong argument, whatever knowledge you are having, you have to be very confident. Say strongly whatever you are going to say. But at the same time, you should have a better listening skills. Because once you are having all these particular listening skills, then you can argue immediately with the specific points, and then the way you are presenting, that gives you a positive way to proceed further as far as the judges are concerned. And therefore, judgment which is given by the judges is the result of how confidently, how legally, how referring with the sections and subsections along with amendments, you are forwarding your presentation, your argument, your statement, and maybe giving n number of the exhibits, submitting n number of the exhibits to the judges. This is the exhibit. This is what the documents which are available. This is what it has happened exactly in the earlier case. And this is, my lord, I am referring to you. So this is the way whenever such type of the convincing take place. So read, remember, argue logically, and be confident. This is the message which I want to give you today. Friends, at the end, all the successful advocates, all the successful legal firms don't have the best of everything. They don't have the best of everything, but they just make the best of everything. They just make the best of everything. With these few introductory words, a presidential address is concerned, I wish this particular webinar will be very effective, useful, and concrete things will be in the hands of the attendees, presenters, participants, as far as what to take away and what to learn from this particular webinar. So I wish all the great success. Once again, I welcome our guest, our speaker, Dr. Sheetal Babar, Senior Consultant, APJ Legal Associates, and Director, Law Straw Private Limited. Madam, most welcome on behalf of Sri Balaji Society's Balaji Law College. And even we can also invite you in Sri Balaji University, Pune, as far as your expertise is concerned. Now, over to you. Over to you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Okay, Tejasvi, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inspirational words and always being there to motivate us with all the new and innovative ideas. Thank you, sir. It is great honor for me to introduce and welcome our resource person, Dr. Sheetal Babar ma'am. She merely requires an introduction. She is well known for her work in field of law. She is holding PhD in Copyright Law from Department of Law, SPPU. She holds various diplomas from SPPU. She has a vast and rich experience of 8 years as full-time faculty of law in Shankar Rao Chavan Law College. At the same time, she is also being a visiting faculty in various other law colleges. She is also working as consulting advocate in family matters for last 17 years. Currently, she is Senior Consultant, APJ Legal Associates, Director of Law Straw Private Limited, which provides education and training modules on online platform. Friends, this is just a bird's eye view of her entire journey. There are a number of feathers into her crown. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to our family of Sri Balaji Society. We really admire that during pandemic to reach out to students and to demystify the crucial concepts of law, you made yourself available on social platform. Ma'am, your affection for students and your compassion for society will always be admired by the society as well. We are fortunate to have you here. Now, I request Sheetal Babar ma'am to guide our participants with your knowledgeable, inspiring, magical, and most awaited words. Ma'am, please address the gathering.
Thank you so much, Tejasvi ma'am. Before starting my session, good morning to all the participants. Good morning to all of these beautiful ladies. Women empowerment on Sri Balaji College Society's virtual platform. Before starting up, let me just thank few people who I have been knowing since the beginning of my career. Sri Bala sir, he has always been an inspiration to many of us, many like me instead. I would also like to thank Shirude sir, who's been fantastic. I mean to say, if you have such a personality who is guiding you on every single platform, and then what he spoke today about the mooting skills and everything, sir, I am quite impressed and I'm so obliged that I am sharing this platform with you. This is so wonderful to share the platform with the intellectuals around. Whatever sir spoke about is so true, not only to the lawyers, but I guess when it comes to communication, it is applicable to all of us. But then, as we are very confined today with the mooting skills, I would really like to thank the society, especially the law college, for coining this particular subject, because this is so important. We usually speak a lot about moot courts, and then we club up so many things together, and the focus and the highlight is always distracted. I give a lot many more sessions on mooting skills and advocacy skills, but then as I said, it is always a combination of few more things, and then you have to distribute the whole subject and you have to cover up all of these things together and put it up for the participants. But all thanks to Madhavi ma'am, especially because she was the one, I suppose, who coined this topic, and she's the one who thought me fit into this criteria of being the resource. So let me not waste more time. I just want to thank again to the society as well as Sri Shivaji Maratha Law College. Vishwanath sir has been again an inspiration to all of us, I suppose. So I thank you, and I just let us start with the exact thing what I am here for. Now the very first question comes to my mind as a student, what exactly mooting is? Because for the senior rights who are there onto this platform, they might be knowing what is moot court. Say for example, I'm a first year right and I am understanding what is moot court, I might be into the sea of confusion. So to understand what exactly mooting is, law colleges do have certain curricular activity, extracurricular activity, I must say, which do have this important and significant stage or a platform which is called as moot court. For the final year rights, I suppose this is a subject in itself. But then it has always been looked up into the thing as to this is a curricular activity, or maybe this is extracurricular activity which will be adding up certain things to my CV, and that's all. So whenever we look up to this mooting or moot court as the term, we are always into four corners, or basically a wall confined only with the curricular or the college life. But trust me guys, this is a myth. When it comes to mooting skills, this is the very beginning, this is the very start, we say, which will flourish you, which will give you so much of nutrition, I must say, for your professional platform. You'll be all built up with everything which is needed for your professional platform when you are all well versed, when you are all acquainted with this mooting skill. But then generally, what we call mooting skill, if you ask me a question, ma'am, what is mooting skill? I might just give you one sentence or one-line answer. Mooting skill is oral presentation. Then comes up the second question as to, ma'am, then what is this useful for? Now, trust me, as in Madhavi ma'am was introducing the society, there are 6 sisterly institutions. Go to every single institute and ask them what is important when you enter into the professional platform. Let's not talk only about the lawyers and the budding lawyers and the advocates and the professionals. We, the teachers, we would definitely agree with this. It is how you present yourself into the society. It is how you present yourself into the professional, or let's say the societal platform. That is your first impression. And when we say if this is the first impression, how you present yourself is orally, your gestures, as Shirude sir was talking about the confidence, how confidently you're putting yourself in front of anyone. That is what more important is, and this all is what we today are going to speak about. When it comes to moot courts, probably we have so many aspects to cover, which I will be just having a glance through to understand how moot court competitions are to be faced. But mooting skill is something which is important for a budding lawyer who's a student, a law student. Mooting skill is important for we all professors on the platform, outside the platform. Mooting skills are important for all of those lawyers, advocates, attorneys, counselors, and so on who are associated with the corporates. This is what the trending world these days. All of these are those individuals or category of individuals who definitely are in need of this mooting skills. So what are these mooting skills? What do you mean by you orally presenting yourself in front of someone? Let's go ahead in detail as to what is this mooting skill. What do I mean when I say I'm orally presenting myself in front of a judge? There are two things. As I said, it is a myth that we just take mooting skills only in context to our curricular activity, or maybe that extracurricular activity which is only associated to a college life. Why do I say this is a myth? Because ultimately when you enter into a professional platform and you are the best for the mooting skills, those skills are definitely going to build you more confident, build you more professionally strong, build you more constructively and substantially strong when you stand in front of a judge. Moot courts, we take it in context only of the mock judges or the mock competitions, we say. They're two different things. When it comes to moot court, that's a totally different thing. When it comes to mock trials, that's an absolutely different thing. In both of these things, we need the mooting skills. When it comes to moot courts, we know what moot courts are. These are the competitions, these are the curricular activities which are essential or rather a part of a college life. Maybe we have intra-moot courts, or you go on to the competitions outside the college, outside the state, onto the national level and so on. When you talk about a moot court, it's only thing as to you get certain facts. Those facts are to be interpreted by you. You are certainly to make applicable particular and appropriate laws. We'll be discussing more about this later on, but then this is how moot courts work. Facts, arguments, and remarks of the judge. We won't say the judgment. The remarks of the judge, the compilations, the written submissions. This is a part of moot courts. Why mock trials are different? Mock trials are more elaborative, I must say. Those do have the content of, say, actual courts, wherein you, we won't say the reality of the courts, but then certain essence and gist of the proceedings of the court. There is a part of evidentiary things which are added to mock trials, wherein students are expected to have to go with the witnesses, to ask witnesses, to counter the witnesses, and so on. That is how we calculate what is a mock trial. When we considering mock trial and moot court, In every single thing, what is important is how you present yourself in front of everyone. The judge, the witness, your colleague, the defendant if you are the plaintiff if you are the defendant, or the respondent or the applicant, in whichever role you are fitted into. There might be some other people sitting into the room. Trust me, I have judged so many competitions, let it be the mocks, let it be the moots, let it be the client counseling, and so many. It makes a difference. You are facing a judge, you are presenting to the judge, but judge is facing to you as well as the audience who's sitting behind you. It makes a difference for me as a judge to look up to the expressions of all of those who are sitting into that courtroom. Definitely, my ears are only up to you. What you are contending, what is your contention, what is your content, and all of these things matter me a maximum. But then, there might be some people who are expressing and which gives a different judgment of yours onto me. If you're pleasing all of them sitting into the court, including the judge, that means you have wonderful mooting skills. But then mooting skill, I say, is just not putting yourself in front of the judge. There's so many things when we calculate or when we actually compute what exactly the mooting skill is. Mooting skill is reading. Mooting skill is critically thinking and going about deep into all of those thoughts. Mooting skill is all about you making a compilation of all of your research together. Mooting skill is you deliberately, for convincing the judge or anyone you want to convince, deliberately putting things into substance. Mooting skill is then you having an eye contact with the person you want to convince. There's so many other things. Let us calculate one by one what this mooting skills, which is essential part of, as I said, so many exemplary things I took upon. Firstly, mooting skill, though being a presentation of yours orally, do have certain things of preparations. They need certain skills to acquire mooting skill. First of all, what is more important for preparing to be a part of the moot courts, the mock trials, and to be more acquainted with mooting skill or mooting is firstly to read the fact sheet. You ought to read the fact sheet, you ought to read the facts. Usually facts are given by maximum of the competitions or the colleges who conduct this competition, but then there are certain citations. Sometimes they just give you the citation. Now the question is, how do you know about the facts? Reading the citation in itself is a skill, which is a maximum part, I say, which is a major role of yours to read the citation, understand that citation, and then club up all of those ideas which are mingling upon your head. Citation reading and mooting is quite easy, I say always. There is a reason for this. When you have citation which is provided by any particular college as a moot court case, you already have what has been argued from or against whatever role you have been allotted with. You have lot many more case laws which already are referred in that citation. What is difficult is you just get the fact sheet and now your mooting skills are onto the edge. You have to polish them because there are these many facts which are in front of you. What do you do at the very first level to prepare yourself for the mooting is reading the facts 100 times is the lesser count I am telling. 100 times is the minimum you have to read the fact, I say. You must be saying, has she lost herself 100 times reading the fact of 10 or 20 lines? Trust me guys, read it more and you get more ideas to be built up with your mooting. The lesser you read, the more you have loopholes in your mooting skill. Because mooting is ultimately putting yourself in front of a judge, making him convinced that you have been prepared for these many facts. But then there might be hundreds of perspectives. While you prepare for the mooting, reading not only the case is important, but reading not only the facts is important, but reading all of those instructions underneath is also important. While discussing time management, I'll come on to these points of what exactly you need to prepare when it comes to instructions given by respective colleges for the competitions. But right now, reading the facts, interpreting the facts. We maximum might be, all of us, even when I was a student, I had this habit. I used to read the case 100 times. It used to get a lot of stuff into our minds. So many perspectives, but I never wrote it down, all of those perspectives, all of those things, all of those ideas and thoughts which came up to my mind that moment. I never wrote it down till I did my PhD. When you are reading something and you are at a stage of interpreting that particular thing, maybe today I feel that he is murdered in the night while reading the case. While reading it tomorrow, I might find it out the time given into the fact sheet, which was 6 a.m. So the earlier perspective, I scrap it down that murder has not taken place in the night. Murder has taken place at 6, or maybe it's just the sunrise. So what time the sunrise on that particular date, if the date is provided, it's so easy. Google helps us in every, I am a Google mom, ask me. Google helps me a lot in finding of so many things. It helps you, everything is on your plate. It is only you have to pick it up and eat whatever you want to. So these are things, or maybe next day it strikes to my mind that he is not, what, at 6 a.m. if there was a sunrise at 6:15 a.m. on that very date, which has been specifically mentioned underneath the fact sheet, how do the prosecution calculates that it is the defendant because it was dark? And then the witness who saw this particular person at that particular spot was 100 meters distance. At 6:15 a.m. it was a sunrise. At 6 a.m. murder took place. It was too dark without a light at a distance of 100 meters. Can a person see properly? Can he locate that this was the person who has murdered? I might get so many ideas. Write it down, because that is where we fall short. Fortunately, mooting is a teamwork. So maybe you write something, me writing something, my researcher writing something, my junior writing something, and then we have a brainstorming session, and that is how we develop with mooting skill, the very first perspective. So reading 100 times the fact sheet. Then comes the second question as to which all are the laws which we can take into the scenario. All of us, because when it is a mooting skill, you have, see, trust me, mooting skill is something which is important, as I said, for the advocates also. This is the beginning. We're fortunate that we have mooting as a part of a curriculum. You might ask all of those senior lawyers, the very earliest lawyers, I would say, of the era, wherein they didn't had moot courts as a part of their curriculum, and they directly entered the professional platform and they started arguing without any idea as to how to calculate these things. So we're fortunate, we know the exact built up, the exact construction, the exact structure of how to build a case. And when I say so, If you are a defendant, where we go wrong always is we always think from the side of a defendant. We find it out all those loopholes which are present in the fact sheet. We look up to the laws, we look up to those laws which creates the major loophole into the facts and the law. We find out that difference and that distance in between the law and the fact, and we make it applicable. We go to the court all prepared with our own case. Wrong is that. How do you develop those mooting skills is through preparing the case from both of the sides. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming is locating that another person who's competing you. Brainstorming is not just peeping into the books and finding out, oh my God, what all things are there in underneath the book. Obviously, that should be there, because as being the lawyer, as being a budding lawyer, as being someone who will be professionally putting himself or herself in front of the court, the bench, the judge, you obviously need to be well read. But then if I know what my colleague is going to put up, and if I have points which will definitely scrap whatever he has been convincing to the court, will definitely give me more of the results which I am expecting. This is mooting. This is something which you call as more of the mooting skills. It's just not what you just going through. I might have hundreds of authorities. I might have thousands of authorities. Trust me, that is how you have to prepare yourself. Hundreds of authorities from my side. Where to put it, how to put it is another part, but then I'm just focused on to my defenses if I'm a respondent. And I don't know what plaintiff is going to put up. This happens with the moot court also, this happens with the mock trial also, and this happens with the professional life as an advocate also. Because the prosecution, the plaintiff, the applicant has a different case, and you coming in front of the judge and you're putting a different case. There is no consonance in between what the applicant and the respondent is stating. There is no nexus in between both of these. That doesn't mean you should not have a separate defense. Obviously, you can have a separate defense. That's so true. That is one of the elements of your mooting skill. But then always first, that is why in the beginning I said, for mooting what you need is critical thinking. You ought to need to think first critically and then put it or line up your own arguments, line up your own convincing points. So firstly, reading the fact sheet. Secondly, critically thinking, that means preparing the case for the opposite party or for the opponent is must. And then whatever loopholes you think, so it's quite not easy, guys, to prepare for a mooting thing at any of the levels which we are discussing. You always have to first put in what your opponent might put up in front of the judge. Take out those loopholes. Those are your stronger and strengthier points. Based on those, along with all of those defenses which are disconnected or which are, we say, certainly having the loopholes in between the fact sheet and the legal authorities or the legal points or the legal enactments or the legal provisions, you definitely can have the defense based on them. That is what mooting skill is all about. Thirdly, how? Agreed that now we have put up, we have lined up as to what will be my point of convincing. How do I find out the material which is useful for this? Where do I get this material? I'm so used to Wikipedia, with all due respect to Wikipedia. But then the question is, what is authentic source? What do hold the authority to mention it? Trust me, you go to the court or the bench and you say, Wikipedia says so. and tell me, we'll meet some another day and tell me the reaction of the judge. He might have a sarcastic reaction. That gives a very bad impression because you didn't have any authority. See, why I say Wikipedia doesn't have an authority? Because it has a tab which says anyone can edit the information. When you say a particular information is editable by any one of us, how much authority does it carries is a question. Instead, if I put up Manupatra, if I put up Supreme Court cases, if I put up All India Reporter, if I put up Maharashtra Law Journal, if I put up Criminal Law Journal, there's so many journals, there's so many reporters, there are so many magazines. Why not? There's so many newspapers which carry a lot of information because there is someone who's holding a responsibility and authority that whatever has been published underneath this particular authority is true to the knowledge of the author. That is how you have to calculate. So what all are those things which can be considered while you're convincing a judge as an authority? Firstly, the case law. As I said, find out hundreds of case laws for and against. Because in every case, there is for and against. Every single case, maybe a particular case is not supporting your defense. But then there definitely is an argument which is supporting what you are supposed to convince the judge. So that is how every case may be in your favor, may be not supportive to what you are mooting, is important and is significant. You can calculate those ideas and then you can find it out what all case laws are supportive to whatever you have decided that this will be my convincing point. I'm still not stating this as my contention. We're not yet at contentions. Next is, what else can you read is, read the books of those stalwart authors. They do have so much of authoritative work. There's so many theories. There's so many statements which have been considered by Supreme Court judges. Who are we? They are these stalwart thinkers of law, the jurists of law, the philosophers of law. They will definitely put up, there might be something key, you don't have any case law which is supporting your contention. But there is this one stalwart philosopher of law, jurist of law, who has his theory which is wholly supporting your case. Say for example, there is no single, you are arguing for a divorce case. There is no case law which is actually covering up all your circumstances. There is no similar case which you can put up in front of the court. Find out those jurists who talk about the irretrievable breakdown of theory. Put up their contentions, what they have put up into their own theories. This definitely makes a difference because this gives an impression onto the judge that it is not only the case laws which I have gone through, but then there is something else extra which you have learned, which you have grasped, which you have here into your computers. Talk about MP Jain, talk about D.D. Basu. You need not always have Keshavanand Bharti and Golaknath to be discussed. So this is how reading more, apart from the authorities, that is the case law, we more read about the books, the thinkers, the critical thinkers, the authors, and so on. What else you basically can read more when it comes to, as in, I guess Shirude sir just talked about it, amendments. So much essential. If you're discussing something about a street and there is a fact given to you which talks about the property of a female, a drastic change in the law. Unless and until you know what has been changed and you are just putting your contentions, you're putting your arguments in front of the judge, which no more is a law. You absolutely versed in your mooting skill. You need to be updated. You need to know every single amendment. I go further and I tell my students, it's just not talking about the bills passed. You always should be all aware of the bills pending in the parliament. And why is that? Because that is how you are eager to hear the parliamentary debates, which also gives a major source for you to improve your critical thinking, which ultimately is your mooting skill. It is all oral when you're calculating moots. When you're calculating mooting skills, it's all about the oral things. And what you pour is what you have. So what you have is something which is important when you are developing your mooting skills. So you ought to know what amendments have been passed. You ought, when amendments are passed, find out what is the purpose and reason for that amendment. If something comes up with an amendment, say for example, copyright laws, there is an amendment in or let's talk about the criminal, which is well known to everyone. Probably copyright is quite technical subject. And, let's talk about the Criminal Amendment Act. It changed the whole facet of Section 357. It scrapped 377. It changed the whole facet of 354, modesty. There have been so many additions to modesty, dignity of a woman. You ought to know all of these. And where do you find this? You find this in amendments. When I say reading of amendments gives more into you, you are more heavier concerned to the knowledge when you read amendments. But still, you need to find that historical background for every single amendment. Where did it came from? So if I'm talking about the Criminal Amendment 2018, I should have read about Justice Verma Committee's recommendations. I cannot just talk about the amendment. So law commissions basically is something which we hardly read when it comes to our mooting presentations. We don't give a weight at all to those law commission reports, but trust me, everything which has been debated, everything which has been argued in the parliament is based on something which has been put up by these law commissions. You absolutely cannot avoid those law commissions. Instead, I must say, just uttering the name of the law commission or just mentioning, if we're just talking about the amendment to Hindu Succession Act, say for example, Section 6 or Section 14, Stri Dhan, as in we were talking about the property of a female. You ought to know through which this amendment took place, which is that law commission report. If you just make a mention in front of the judge that it is 174th law commission report, which has brought up certain changes, and then you come up to the point as to Section 6 of Hindu Succession Act, Section 14 of Hindu Succession Act, that might definitely give a different impression that you have absolute mooting skills, because you're pouring that which you have imbibed in you. What next to be read? Because reading is something, a mooting skill, I always say. Next is something you ought to find out. What are those national commissions which are associated to the facts which are given into your fact sheet? If it is concerned to women, you know the laws. There's so many women laws. If it is about Domestic Violence Act, if it is about the dignity of a woman, if it is about harassment of a woman at workplace, if it is about ill treatment, if it is about dowry debt, there's so many things we talk about women and the grievances in India. You definitely know all of these laws, enactments which are applicable to a certain or particular situation into the fact sheet. But it is always recommendable that you should make a mention of respective national law commission or national commission which is set up for that category of population. It gives a totally different impression onto the one who is listening to you. And it is not always what you say, it is always the others who listen. It is not me satisfying myself as to wow, amazingly I am putting up my things. Sorry. It is all how much you people are enjoying listening to me. That is how we calculate mooting. So if there is something else popped up, talking about a National Women Commission in front of a judge, he definitely will remember that this is the lady, this is that gentleman who spoke about the National Commission and certain more recommendations on dignity of a woman, which definitely have been referred in Justice Verma Committee, but then there are certain more recommendations. So probably in nearer future, this might be the perspective of not only the parliament, not only the legislature, but also of the judiciary. It will give a kick to the mind of that judge. Next, find out if there is any international instrument. There are articles 51 especially of Indian Constitution which makes it a mandate to comply with international. 256 article of Indian Constitution makes it compulsory to have compliance with international conventions and instruments. Talking about intellectual property rights, see if India has been a signatory of any particular WIPO agreement, TRIPS agreement, or see if it is a signatory for WCT, that is World Copyright Treaty. If it is, then make that treaty applicable, make a reference about that treaty. And then further your mooting skills. Then further what you orally want to convince. Then further speak about what you exactly want to argue in front of the judge. So these are basic things when we actually calculate as to how the mooting skills needs to be inculcated in you. This is the process, this is how you can build up the whole stuff of yours. Now comes the second part, which is significant. This is all reading part. Maximum you read, maximum you take, maximum you symbiotically compile it, maximally then you are able to put it up in front of someone. But this is something which is the inner thing. Now we are actually calculating those important skills which we need. I have so many things in my mind. I have to put up so many things in front of you. If you ask me to talk about mooting skills and advocacy skills, it can be 100 hours I can speak. But then Madhavi ma'am shall be killing me up if I started speaking upon this for 100 hours. So you need to know where to have that full stop. You need to know where to cut short your points. That is something now you're building up with your oral presentations. This is, I say, a catalyst of what you have and what you shall present. Build up the whole structure of your arguments. Start up with the jurisdiction, whether you have the jurisdiction to argue in front of this court, for example. Convince the court that you have authority as well as it has an authority to listen and to speak. Perfectly, half the way you've already passed. Then come up to those points which you have as your strength points. Don't directly go into arguing with what the opponents have put up. That's the concluding part. You just have to scrap it by the authorities. Put up all of those points that your client do have these particular rights. In what ways? Always stress upon Constitution, even at the trial level. It is a myth that Constitution is only argued at higher judiciary. Wrong. Because we don't try to. It is a misconception that at trial level you just have to put a stress on facts. Why? Ultimately, you're talking about someone's right. When you're talking about someone's right, where are these rights imbibed? Where are these rights? Who enhances these rights? Envisages these rights? It's Constitution of India, the law of land, what we call it as. make a reference. I would rather give a tip to all of those budding lawyers and the professionals. Start with Constitution. It definitely will imbalance the equilibrium of the judge. Oh my God, if Constitution is saying something, I have to read it. I cannot just give the judgment because it is Constitution is stating this. Give the judge that doubt in his or her mind, which will drag her or him towards the convincing level of what you are saying. And then come on to all of those enactments and those sections and those articles, which definitely are your points of reference. Where we go wrong, we have so many authorities, we have so many enactments, we have Constitution which we can refer. But we go wrong in building up the arguments. Always what goes wrong with the mooters, especially in the college level, is what we do is we have a contention, we prepare an argument. I guess we the professors also some of the other times when we are basically helping these young mooters, we also, even I am, say humans can be committing wrong sometimes. I used to commit such kind of wrongs initially. While building up contentions, what we do is we have the contention, we have points underneath, and we just put up those authorities in between two contentions. Wrong. It has to be a story of circumstances. What happened with my client? Same thing happened with that client in this particular case, and Honorable Apex Court has come up to this ruling. Similarly, we go ahead and this happened to my client later on. Same rights were argued in this particular ruling, and the Apex Court has opined on my behalf, or has opined which is supporting me. And then while you are growing up with the stories, you have to, and then we have a very wrong, what I could say, I mean, this is not an allegation, even I used to do that, but we have a very wrong way of putting up the contentions and the authorities. What we usually do is, we just turn up the pages, find out that highlighted area, we make a reference of that page number and that paragraph to the judge, and we start reading. That even judge can do. What's the skill of yours there? Make it a point, you know precisely, summarizingly what that paragraph is all about. It definitely is something which is a principle. You're just putting up the principle in front of the judge, which has been opined or which has been considered by the superior court to the court who you are arguing. Just convincing the court that your boss has considered this particular thing in, or this particular principle in this particular case. Why reading it? Summarize what that principle is all about and just put it. Let the judge take his own time. Don't waste your energy in reading the highlighted area. That is for the reference. Your contentions should be smooth. It should be original. The reference should only be something which is definitely have to be highlighted and put up in front of the judge so that they refer it. And that is how you proceed with your contentions. We just not focusing on how to write the contentions because we are onto the mooting skills. So once you build all of these, you simultaneously and consecutively put up one by one all of these points. Once you finish it off, then come on to the point of what your opponent has tried to convince the judge. This only happens when you have critically thought of your case and you have prepared the case from both the sides. You know what your opponent is going to present in the court and you have found those authorities and case laws which are against those contentions. Only then you can have this part of mooting. Otherwise, it is just simply putting your contentions, concluding and going to the prayer, which is again not recommended at all. Put up your case, then come on to the opponent's case, have those authorities which scraps or quashes all of those points which he or she has put up in front of the court, and then go to the conclusion. Conclusion can be on somewhat points of emotional thinking. At the professional level also, at the point of college level also. That doesn't mean that you have to have tears in your eyes to show that you are emotional. That doesn't need to see the tears in the eyes of the judge. Don't be that emotional. But then, usually, when we're discussing any law, we're discussing that onto the social issues. If there is something in front of you which is talking about the right of a child which has been abused, have a slight essence of the emotional, social, philosophical approach to that particular issue. What if the judge doesn't consider the contentions of this counsel? Then what will prospectively be the repercussions and ramifications of this judgment? Should be put up to the court. So the court will think as to, oh, if this is going to be the situation, there might be hundreds of children who shall be suffering if I go wrong. So it is not only about a child being abused in this particular case, but it is about those millions of children in future who shall be abused at millions of occasions. That is what you need when you do need to develop your mooting skills. Coming to the last point, I won't take much of your time. I'm just concluding. When you are discussing all of these, there are certain people's skill, what we call. What are these people's skill? People's skill are nothing but soft skills. You putting something very strongly in front of the judge. That is the very gist of your contention. How you put it is more important. How you present is more important. There has to be something which keeps an equilibrium of the pace and volume of your voice. Second is fluency. How fluently you are convincing the judge. They might be, even I have this, maybe I have 100 times done this, but then with all the swag, we do this. We don't show that, that is something which is pausing me from thinking what to speak next. That is how you present yourself. Probably Shirudar sir was talking about that confidence. You might not have that confidence inside you. Don't show it, because this is the world of show off. How much you show is how much they grasp, what they see. So when it comes to these gestures, don't be too bold. I know this is the platform wherein I could be seen only in these four corners of the frame. I start walking here and there. Wrong putting up of the things. When you know, especially when it comes onto the professional platform, you know the judge is sitting on the higher level wherein you're standing at the lower level. So you always do have that angle to speak. Don't practice speaking, looking at an angle which is lower to you. These are certain gesture things. These are certain people's skills. You ought to find it out. The gesture should not be that bold that judge might get offended by your gestures. The volume is so high in the court that everyone outside the court is entering into the courtroom saying as to, my God, what happened? Who is screaming? Sorry, there has to be a graph. The graph should always not be at one pace. There should be ups and downs. If I say, okay, mooting skill is oral presentation in front of the court, and that is how you have to put yourself, read many books, read many authorities. So boring. Think about that judge who's listening to you. Read those books. Read the authorities. The graph goes up and down. So this is how you develop people's skill. There are many students who come in front of me and ask me this question, ma'am, honestly, I'm so good. I'm such a good researcher, but I'm a very bad orator. How do I cope up with the situation? Mirror talk. I tell my students, I used to do the same. In 2003, I started my teaching career along with practice. I started mirror talk. It was only me and my mirror and myself, three of us in the room. Then I went up to another step. My mom hardly understands English. She's a graduate, but then Marathi medium student. So I knew whatever I speak, she won't take any grammatical mistakes out of it. I started talking to her. Whatever I prepared for my lectures. I come from a very remote place. The student who might feel they are very bad with English. This is how you improve. There is nothing impossible. So maybe you are not a good orators. With all due respect to the judiciary, I have seen 5 amongst 100 judges who are good orators. Does that mean they are not intellectuals? 95 judges are bad orators. 5 of them are the best orators. If you calculate all of those 95 probably might have good judgment, good reasoning to the judgments. So it is absolutely fine if you are not a good orator, but then always trying is a solution or key to that. So while you stand, while you speak, while you have your gestures, should always be submissive. They should not be that bold that it gives an offensive perspective, offensive thing to the listener. You ought to find those gestures in front of your mirror. It is always, you cannot read something and improve yourself. Reading, obviously it has to be there, but unless and until you start practicing those things, they won't come out. So avoid all of those things which are taking you back. Pop up with all of those skills which you are good in. If you're good in research, what is expected? Authorities are expected. So if you are good in research, authorities definitely are there. If you are good in research, the contentions, they're definitely good. If you're good in research, you have your own story, that is what you're going to put it up. So these are certain things from my side when we basically discuss about all of those mooting skills and how do we develop that. These are the ways: reading more things, practicing more things in the room, practicing it with your mom, your friends, your relatives who will boost up your morale, then practicing in front of a group of friends or group of people, say a family, and then jumping onto the actual platform. That is basically how you improve yourself. These are those people skills which you need to apply while you are speaking. There are certain court etiquettes. If you're not able to answer the question of a judge, regrade. State your honor, your lordship, whatever respective salutation you are supposed to. Speak it out. I regret, but I am unable to recall the section. I'm unable to recall the authorities right now. If your lordship could allow me some time to look into this, I would be obliged. These are certain things, submissive things. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I am right now not recollecting. Wrong. You need to please because He is God of justice. He is someone above you. And He is not someone who is going to give you the justice. You're responsible for someone else's life. You're responsible for someone else and the lives which are acquainted with that single life. So you are not to convince yourself, but you're here to convince someone else to the judge. And it is the justice to that individual, so ultimately justice to the society. Hence, these are few things you need to inculcate while you develop your mooting skills, which is an inseparable, non-detachable part of your profession and your law career as well. So Tejasvi ma'am, this is all from my side. It's all over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your rich and so knowledgeable experience. Ma'am, like you mentioned, like for 100 hours, you can actually talk on mooting in advocacy. I really feel that yes, you talking for 100 hours, it's going to be a pleasure to hear you, ma'am.
Oh, that's so
I must
kind gesture.
I must really say this here that within a very short period of time, you have actually touched so many aspects of law, of advocacy, of mooting, like the parliament debates, law commission, different theories and amendments. Indeed, this is going to be a very fruitful experience to all our participants. Let it be the students, the budding lawyers, or the practicing lawyers. So
Thank you.
now, with your permission, I would like to continue with the question and answer session.
Please proceed, ma'am.
I'd like to request Assistant Professor Priya Mandal ma'am to please coordinate for the same. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tejasvi ma'am. Ma'am, your lecture has provided an insight to mooting skill in a pedantic manner. With your permission, I would like to start with question and answer. May I?
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, though you have answered almost all the questions, but still I would like if you answer these two for us. How to answer a question so that it does not appear rude or argumentative or arrogant to a judge?
Right. I guess in my session, I have already discussed this part that you always have to be submissive. There are two things. One, you know the answer. Once you know the answer, it is quite easy to convince the judge. There's certain etiquettes. The first etiquette which needs to be followed while answering a judge is don't interrupt while the judge is speaking. When he's talking, let him talk. Never interrupt because that again gives an offensive thing in the mid of the convincing part. So while you're answering, you ought to be submissive. If you know, directly come on to the law point or the legal point and just don't distract the attention of the judge to the factual things. Secondly, if you don't know the answer, be quite regretting about it, be sorry for it, and ask the judge because the judge also knows that he or she is delivering a justice to someone. Probably they might give you the time, but then if it is a moot court, it is considered to be a submissive etiquette which ought to be there while answering.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, the next question is, should we put a very strong point forward in an argument that have not been mentioned in our memorial earlier?
Okay, anyway, we didn't touch anything concerned to the written submissions, but let me be very clear. This is a criteria which is applicable to the college curriculum also, as well as your professional tip also, I must say. You cannot speak a word which is not represented or reflected in your memos. Unless and until you have those contentions, if that's a strong point, it ought to be your contention. So nothing in actual courts, real courts of justice, as well as in these mock courts of justice, you are allowed to speak anything outside your memorial.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, what should be appropriate body language? What are some etiquettes which need to be followed while addressing an authority?
Yes, I guess my concluding part was all about this. But the very simple thing which I could put forward here is be submissive, don't be loud. Loud in the sense we're talking about the gestures, we're not talking about the voice. The voice definitely has to be something which do have an appropriate pace or appropriate volume. And then the standing erect. Secondly, I would say eye contact is something which is important. Handing over something to the judge while you're arguing, all of these gestures is something which definitely needs to be counted upon, and definitely all of them should be submissive. That's must.
Nice. Ma'am, one question regarding research. A student wants to know what is the focus point of any moot problem?
What needs to be a focus point of a moot problem?
Yeah.
The gist of the case, the strongest argument which you could put up in front of the court, the contentions of yours, building up of those contentions, structuring your arguments, and maximum authorities, which probably in that time management, even if you could not speak about it, even if you could not put it in front of the judge, but still your compilations should be of that volume, which speaks volume to the judge. So that has to be one of the important aspects of focus while you speak. And then yes, a little bit of emotional things also, I must say. One more thing I can add up to this, what your focus should be, which usually we skip this focus. Your focus should be prayer. Why do I say so? Because ultimately you are arguing, you have a amazing build-up of your case, but then you don't know what to ask for the judge, because judge will only give you what you have asked. So prayer, rather, I must say, should be your focus point to convince the judge that I, on behalf of my client, needs these many things.
The next question, how do we select a relevant paragraph from a long judgment of a case law?
Perfect question is this, I must say. I was about to speak it while I was actually talking about how do you find authorities. I will give you a simple tip, because that is again an art to read the citation. But usually when you are going through a citation, the principles which are laid down in that respective authority do have a vertical line besides adjoining the principle. So that vertical line, wherever you find that vertical line, a standing line besides any paragraph, that actually general tip, because as I told you, this can be actually how to read. Art of reading a citation can be a whole session upon. So that is one of the tips you can find the principles, finding that line in the citation.
Okay. Ma'am, next question is how to tackle with the sudden unexpected question from the judge or a case who is not allowing to present.
I guess Shirure sir has already answered this question. He basically was talking about alertness of mind. So that is the answer for this. If something comes, see, it all depends on how much you have read. It absolutely is all about how much have you read. You have read 100 liters, for example, then anything pops up somewhere in that 100 liters, you have 0.0 or some milliliters which you could put up. So nothing is unexpected actually. Everything depends on presence of mind and alertness of mind, I must say.
Ma'am, next question. If you learn the skill of mooting in college, what will be the actual problem one be facing in the court of law?
That's what I have been n number of times putting up in my today's session. It is a myth that mooting is only applicable or useful or something which is essential for a law student. Mooting is all about how you present your case. So once you start mooting or moot courts in the college itself, you know that art of building up or structuring your arguments. You know what authorities are more relevant and what are irrelevant. You know how to quash the point of your opponent at the very level of you being a student. So these are some essential things you learn in the college itself before entering into the professional life. And I guess there are no disadvantages absolutely at all of mooting or moot courts or mock trials or client counseling in the college. They definitely are advantageous, more advantageous, I must say.
And the last question for the day, ma'am, does mooting culture meet the practical way of working in corporate industry or for the judiciary industry more?
Absolutely. Because again, putting up the same thing again and again, mooting is something, the art of building your own case. So even if you are a judge, you have to build up your own case, because there are two confusing arguments, or rather there are two confusing thoughts which have been put up, contradictory and contrast thoughts in front of you. So it is you who are going to build up the case. That is from the judicial point of view. I am the judge. There are two advocates who have put up something in front of me. There's so many compilations. There's so many authorities in front of me. I have to take those things, have to critically think, have to build up my reasoning, ultimately is what my mooting skill is. And when you talk about corporate world, mostly what corporate work we do have is, say for example, if it is mergers or acquisitions, just an exemplary thing. You ought to read Indian laws, you ought to read the law of land of another party. So you need to then again have the nexus in between these two laws, and that is how mooting skills work in corporate field as well. It works everywhere. It works while you talk to your client also, because have facts to be taken up, instructions to be taken up from the client is your mooting skill.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for patiently and meticulously answering all the questions. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an honor. Over to you, Tejasvi, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Friends, with this, I'd like to share a thing with you that due to some technical difficulties, our principal sir was unable to connect. But now, as the questions have been resolved, so sir is here along with us. So I request our dear principal sir, Dr. Kilin Janardhan Rao, to please share a few words with all our participants. So please address.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, one and all. I am extremely sorry because I am unable to join the session as a presentee due to some technical problems. The excellent speech given by Barbara madam, for which I am thankful to Barbara madam. The topic of today's webinar, that is mooting skills and advocacy. In fact, this is an important topic. This is an important subject to all the law students as well as junior advocates also. I can say it is essential even for the junior teachers also. But advocacy is such a profession which is the richest one among all the professions, I'm sure to say. No other profession is equal to advocacy. For your information, say for example, Nani Palkiwala as well as Ramjat Malani. Do you know what is the consultation of fees of those people? Even only for consultation, they are charging lakhs and lakhs, not as a fee to appear for the court, only consultation. Apart from that, is any other professionals, is it possible? Then I am telling very clearly, not only getting money, is it possible for any police officers or any customs officers dare to touch the doors of these people? That is the status of advocacy. For your information, I am telling simply, recently there was an advocate from Supreme Court appeared before the Andhra Pradesh High Court to represent the government of Andhra Pradesh. For 3 to 4 days to appear before the court to represent the government, he charged 5 crore rupees he charged. Is it possible to any other professionals to get crores of money within 3 to 4 days? That is the state of self-advocacy. So I am unfortunate, I am unable to join, for which again I am sorry. With these few words, I am taking leave by thanking once again one and all. Jai Hind. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my ideas along with you people. Okay, ma'am. Over to Tejasvi, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support and guidance, which you always have been giving us. With this, I'd like to request Assistant Professor Sangeeta Verma, ma'am, to please propose vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Tejasvi, ma'am. Very pleasant afternoon to one and all. As all good things come to an end, so is the webinar. I, Assistant Professor Sangeeta Verma, on behalf of Shri Balaji Society's Balaji Law College take this opportunity to propose a hearty vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to place on record our sincere heartfelt thanks to our beloved Dr. Colonel A. Balasubramaniam sir, who laid the foundation of this college and who's always ready to extend his enormous cooperation and support in everything we do. I wish to express our deep sense of appreciation to our honorable guest speaker, Advocate Dr. Sheetal Babar Madam, for giving us her valuable time out of her busy schedule and enlightening us with her immense knowledge. Balaji Law College feels very privileged to have been associated with her for so many years. She is part of Balaji family. She has always been ready to address and help the student fraternity and is happy to provide her expertise to explain the complex topics and develop the legal skills. Ma'am, I am sure all our participants have a lot to take from this webinar. The skills required for mooting, right from reading the fact sheet, or be it the critical thinking, be it the citation reading, be it the bodily gesture, the importance of amendment, etc. Ma'am, you have covered all these aspects with so much of simplicity and clarity. Ma'am, accept our sincere thanks for making this day a memorable one. I would